Thank you, Tom. As Mary said, my name is Nic Wall. I'm part of the Local Heritage List project team, and I'm going to talk you through the scope of nominations. I'll start with the broad requirements for nominations and then look at what a heritage asset is, what the term heritage interest means, examples of building structures and places for nomination, some of the oddities, and a brief mention on how nominations are assessed. The basic requirements for a nomination are threefold. Firstly, it's to be within the modern county of Somerset or within Exmoor National Park. Secondly, it must not be covered by a statutory heritage designation, for example, be a listed building or a scheduled monument. Thirdly, it needs to be a heritage asset. The term heritage asset is a modern phrase used to summarize the collection of historic features and places that make up our historic environment. There is a government definition for a heritage asset, which states that it is a building, monument, site, place, area or landscape identified as having a degree of significance meriting consideration in planning decisions because of its heritage interest. The parts of this description we need to take note of are the broad range of buildings, monuments, places, etc. that are included, and the need for heritage interest. I'll come on to heritage interest a little later. Local listing is unusual in that it pulls together features and places from different fields of heritage, which are often in their own silos, be this built heritage, archaeology, parks and gardens, or local and social history. The terminology we use comes from different planning and heritage legislation. When you pick a nomination, you don't need to know which pigeonhole it sits in, but it's useful for this talk to show the breadth of features and places that can be nominated. In reality, most features and places tick more than one box. So, a building is typically a habited or uninhabited structure where its continual maintenance is important for retaining its architectural, aesthetic, or cultural value. A monument is typically an uninhabited building, structure, or works where the information it holds on past human activity is of paramount importance. A site is created by the work of people or the combined work of people and nature and holds evidence of past human activity. A place or area is any part of our environment that has a distinctive cultural identity perceived by people. And a landscape is a defined tract of land deliberately modified to create distinctive characteristics and features, normally for ornamental, recreational, or memorial purposes, and normally called a garden when associated with a building. These features and places need to hold heritage interest to be eligible, which is defined as being of either archaeological, architectural, artistic, or historic interest. The four qualities will also normally overlap, but very briefly, archaeological interest is about providing evidence of past human activity. Architectural interest describes the senses evoked by human design, decoration, or craftsmanship, or from their interaction with nature. Artistic interest celebrates human imagination and expression, including sculpture and public art. Historic interest is about the tangible connection with the past and reflecting community identity. Features and places can provide a link to the history and help illustrate past events. We will now look at some examples, starting with what a building can be. I'm going to skip over the typical building as these are reasonably straightforward, even if they do come in strange shapes. When we talk about a building or monument, we mean any form of man-made permanent structure. They can be disguised above ground, be built into the ground, or be below ground. You may pass over them, through them, or need to go around them. On this page, we have a World War II airfield gun emplacement on the Blackdown Hills, an early 19th century lime kiln near Frome, a Cold War underground bunker off the A303, and a late 18th century bridge on the Somerset moors with a bed of 3 massive Draycott marble slabs. We also have a lyre stone style in Street and a late 19th century bollard by a local foundry in Taunton. They can be space age or very traditional in appearance. On the left is a sculpture diamond by the late Philip King, bought by Clarks of Street in the 1970s. Next to it is the Jubilee cast iron lamp column in Shepton Beecham, with the foundry mark of the Smith brothers of Chard and Jubilee 1887. Buildings and monuments can be easily missed. 4 small lyre stones in a wood off the A39 near Moorlinch mark the hop, skip and jump of Jan Swain as he escaped his captors following the Battle of Sedgemoor. Now, I tripped over these before I saw them. A rare county bridge boundary stone at Bradford-on-Tone marks the 100-yard approach maintained by the Justices of the Peace before the County Council took control of all roads. And it is worth looking down. Here are 3 cast iron covers in close proximity in Street, marking the change in control over drainage and sanitation, from the Street Local Board to the Street Urban District Council and later Somerset County Council, with a curb gully produced by Hillman and Sons of Weston. The next 2 slides look at examples of historic places. Ornamental parks and gardens are self-evident, albeit if they have industrial origins. Places relating to important historic events and activities are often interwoven with our everyday surroundings. To the south of Street is a crossing point over the Polden Hills, known as Marshall's Elm. This was the site of the first skirmish in the English Civil War in August 1642. The holloway up which a parliamentary force advanced and retreated is still in use. The quarry scrapes in which the royalists hid for the ambush are also evident. 25 lives were lost from this encounter. Glastonbury Tor is an interesting example of a community value. The top of the tor is a scheduled monument, but its distinctive terracing or lichets are not included. The origin is unknown, man-made for cultivation, a spiritual maze, or natural land slippage. Either way, they are held in high regard by many people who live and visit Glastonbury and are part of a striking landmark. This includes the Eggstone, a tall burr sarsen stone on which many meditate and leave offerings. The next 2 slides look at oddities, including Humphrey the Carnival Camel. The first 3 images are of objects located on another structure. Provided they are fixed, they are eligible. Here we have a beautiful stone relief installed in 2000 in Kilmersdon depicting the Jack and Jill nursery rhyme inspired by a local hill. An early cast iron direction stone on Bruton Library, an early 20th century AA direction stone and a pre-war boys die cast direction stone in Wellington, fixed to a possible lamp post. The 4th image is the Jubilee Stone on the top of Brent Knoll. The hilltop is a scheduled Iron Age hill fort, but this stone is specifically excluded from the scheduling, so it's eligible. It's always worth checking for relevant HER. There are a few scenarios where local listing is not possible. Vehicles and mobile buildings or machinery would not normally be considered. This is because their historic interest is not connected to a specific place. The first example is a shepherd's hut. It's a museum artifact at the Somerset Rural Life Museum. However, the second and third examples would be acceptable. The plough is a fixture, part of a roadside garden to the World Ploughing Contest in 1971 near Ninehead. Back to Humphrey, one of the Southwest's best known landmarks. Whilst he is movable for repairs, he has watched over the M5 from the same spot for over 40 years. Finally, on assessment. All nominations will be considered by an assessment panel against 8 selection themes. These pick up on the 4 types of heritage interest, plus other considerations to determine if the nominations hold adequate heritage interest to be on the local heritage list. In other words, does it contribute to local character and distinctiveness of Somerset and Exmoor? Now, you may have noticed that most of my examples have been around the Taunton, Glastonbury and Street area, as this is my local patch. Hopefully these slides have shown the breadth of buildings, monuments, sites, places, areas, landscapes, gardens and artwork that can be nominated. And we'll have encouraged a variety of nominations from across Somerset and Exmoor. I'll now hand you to Hattie, who will take you through the nomination process. Thank you.